Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
All right, everybody. My name is Tom Dutta, and I am your host of the Quiet Warrior Show. Hey, we're live streaming today on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You want to go to YouTube, Tom Dutta channel, and click that little button to subscribe. And you want to make sure that you're sharing this with your friend. You can interact live with the guest today. What is live streaming, everybody? Well, if you haven't heard of this, we're taping an epic interview with a guest, and you get to peek into the studio. You see all the bloopers, everything. It's a lot of fun. We're going to be producing this as an international podcast, as well as a second production will be a YouTube premiere video, and that'll come out in the near future. So make sure you subscribe to those feeds. You also get your, wherever you find your favorite podcast, find the Quiet Warrior Show. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring on our guest. She is amazing. She's in the green room there. I can see her. And there you are, Michelle. Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me.
All right. I got your name right. Whenever there's more than two names, I get a little confused, but it's Michelle Seiler Tucker. I did that right. Welcome to the show, Michelle. And you're coming to us from New Orleans. I learned a little bit about you. You're originally from California. And I'm up here in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. So how's it going, eh?
It's going good, yay. I have lots of friends in Canada that I talk to on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And you know what? We're just riffing here as we have some fun. But I'll read your bio in a minute because I want the people to get to know the depth behind who you are and what you do. There's a gentleman up here who actually I spent some time with him named Pino Baccinello, and he actually works in M&A. And it's a little known fact I didn't tell you, but when I was kind of searching to find some direction in my career a long time back, I actually went to be qualified to try to do what you do. And I found it was fascinating, but I wasn't smart enough to do what you do. So it's an honor to be around somebody who pulled it off. Everybody, let me tell you a little bit about Michelle, and then we'll get into the story. Michelle is the founder and CEO of Seiler Tucker Incorporated. She holds the M&amp, that's Mergers and Acquisitions Master Intermediary title, as well as Certified Mergers and Acquisitions Professional and a Certified Business Analyst. Wow, that's a lot of words, but what that really means is that she is an expert and her team is an expert, 20-year veteran in the M&A, mergers, acquisitions industry. She's regarded as the leading authority on buying, selling, fixing, and growing business. And her and her team have sold over thousands of businesses in almost every vertical and have a remarkable track record of success. And here's where we're going to jump off into the deep end. Everybody, when I read the bio, I went, wow, this is too good to be true. There's got to be some backstories, the train wrecks, the mistakes, the flaws, the fall downs to get up, because success isn't a straight line up. So Michelle, it's an honor to have you. Why don't you just take us back to where it began and, tell us your story. How you got to here, but also what was some of the adversity that got you through to being such a successful woman?
Thanks, Tom. Again, thanks for having me. So what got me here? I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always had the entrepreneur blood, I think, run through my veins. And I've owned multiple businesses in different industries. And I've always loved entrepreneurship, even as a young girl. I would never play with toys. I was always walking around with a notebook, walking up to perfect strangers, asking them, what do you do? How do you do it? How did you get started? So I knew I was always going to be a writer. I knew I was always going to be an entrepreneur and a people person. So I have owned different businesses in different verticals. I did get recruited from corporate America, which is Xerox. I worked there for a little under a year, started out there as a high volume specialist, and then very quickly was promoted to regional vice president over 100 different salespeople. And I realized very quickly that I did not like management in corporate America. So I transitioned out of Xerox and went into franchise development, franchise sales, franchise consulting. I was a partner with different franchisors. And I had so many business owners asking me, so many buyers, so many current, business owners asking me, for businesses to acquire. And all we really had were franchises that we were working with, new franchises. So franchise is not for everyone. And I realized that I kept saying, no, we don't have any existing businesses. And finally I said, I need to start saying yes, because I'm a big believer in law of attraction. And so I started saying yes, 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 and started my mergers and acquisitions firm a little over 20 years ago. I personally have sold 500 companies, and altogether my firm has done a little over 1,000.
Well, that's amazing. I just want to jump back in there. And, it's funny when we're telling stories here, we're all connected by threads in our story, Michelle. And you mentioned about corporate America not wanting to, or not liking working there. I'm going to give it back to you in a minute to tell us why, but I'm also going to tell you my why. And I want to go and I want to dig and dig and dig. We have a great resume and all these successes. I still don't know what was the adversity, what was the thing you overcome to get to this point. I'm going to tell you mine. I grew up in a rather dysfunctional childhood. Dad was a military man, command and control, and he was a bit of a drinker too, but not so much about that. But I went into corporate America and I became a CEO at an early age. But one of the things I learned is that I didn't like being there. So that's when you said that, it really struck me. And yet I could have been there. I had to work for myself because I found out later that I really can't work for anybody else. When I unraveled all that, I realized that I had this wiring in me that anytime I saw somebody assertive or, command and control style, my brain just melted into an emotional puddle. And many of the people I've interviewed on my show come on and they're very, very successful. And they'll say, there's that one chip on my shoulder, that one thing, why I didn't play with toys, why I carried around the notebook, that one thing that drove me. And what I love about your story is there's something in you that shaped you to drive and be successful. But what is that rooted in? What was your biggest failure, your biggest comeback? I want to hear about something.
You want to hear about something? Well, I'll start with your first question is, why did I not like working at Xerox? And I really did like working at Xerox in the beginning because I love sales. I love finding out problems. I love finding solutions. I'm extremely solution oriented, and I like to get things done really quickly. And when I moved from sales into upper management, you're not really accomplishing anything. You're scheduling meetings to schedule more meetings to schedule follow-up meetings. And that I didn't like. I like to get things done. Like I said, I'm solution oriented. And so that's why I ended up transitioning out of Xerox, because just corporate America is not for me. Adversity, that was, I believe, your second question. Yeah. And when I transitioned to mergers and acquisitions, the very first conference I walked into a little over 20 years ago in Las Vegas, I walked into the room and there were 3,000 men, no women. So I was the only woman that walked in. All heads turned around and looked at me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, am I in the wrong room? Am I in the room for ARP? I didn't know, And so that was tremendous adversity trying to, really be successful in a men's industry. It's not, 100% dominated anymore like it was when I started. It's probably 98% male dominated now. But, that was a big challenge, really working with business owners, because it was different. They were so used to men representing them. And here I am. And that was challenging, especially in the beginning. And that was a big adversity that I overcame.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It again, my mind goes in many directions. And when my wife and I met, Anna's Italian, a wonderful woman, 25 years now. Her and I met as bankers. I was manager in a bank, Toronto Dominion Bank up here in Canada, and that was the same thing. I mean, we traded those stories over a glass of wine one day. There was all men, and one of the things that drove her was in her childhood. Everything goes back to our formative years. Anna used to tell me that she had a traditional upbringing where the boys got privileged sometimes, and she couldn't be a girl. She wasn't allowed to be her identity, but she was tough. She was strong, and so she went into, and I guess she went in to take on the men in some respects, but she had this strength and was able to persevere. I love that about your story so far. So there you are. You're in the room, and there's thousands of men, and you forged your way. who did you take after, if anything? Where did you get that drive? Was it your mom? Was it your dad? Was it something that shaped you in your early years? Someone who?
Yeah, and I didn't really get that from anybody in my family. My dad was somewhat of an entrepreneur. He owned a couple of different companies, but nobody else was. And he didn't really teach us about entrepreneurship. He didn't really, I grew up with four brothers, and you know, they're not really entrepreneurial. So I can't say anyone in my family um, really taught me that. I think because I grew up with mostly men, I was used to being around men. And, I had brothers that picked on me all the time. I was a baby. And I always had to fight for myself and stick up for myself. So I think that's, what made me comfortable in a room full
Yeah.
of men.
Well,
Like, oh, I already know this.
if I had a little fireworks that would go off, it'd be right now. And I want to honor you. I want to tell everybody that I totally love you. Fell in love with you when you said that. That's exactly where we go on the hero's journey here. That you grew up surrounded by men, and first of all, to be vulnerable on an international show and say, I was picked on. I just love that. It makes you real, and that gave you obviously something to go out there and prove. No, wait a minute. I'm a woman and I'm as strong as you, and I'm going to build my own life. So I honor you. Thank you for sharing that. I want to just have some fun with you and show you that you got a bunch of fans here. So let's see if we can just put some of these comments on the screen here. I'm just going to try to show it. There's one. So inspirational. There's another. Oh, that was a couple. Love the story. Inspirational. And go, Michelle. All right, so now you got to really tell us a bit about that. I was saying up front of your bio how successful you've been. I'm impressed by the Xerox part because I know a lot of people who went through those type of companies. They really teach sales, and there's obviously to get in there. So bring us into now the world of M&A. Just how do you work with business owners? One of the things I want to just throw out there to have you riff on as well is I know a lot of business owners, and there's this thing that sometimes they can't let go of the business. And many businesses, they don't run it as if it's for sale, meaning they don't have the processes, systems in place to get it ready for sale. When they leave, the business dies because everything was in their head. Just talk about some of those principles. How do you get people ready to exit? And then tell us about your amazing book.
So, yes, you're right. Steve Forbes, who endorsed Exit Rich, says 80% of businesses will never sell. 80%.
Wow.
That's pretty scary. I mean, if you're a business owner and you're thinking about putting your business on the market, that means you only have less than a 20% chance of success. So everybody should be petrified by that. And the number one reason that is, well, there's so many reasons, but one of the number one reasons is because business owners don't plan their exit, Tom. They never really think about selling until they have to due to an internal or external catastrophic event occurring. Number one would be internal partner disputes, divorce, health issues, death. This pandemic is an external event that occurs where a lot of business owners are having to sell because of this pandemic, because of the business is not doing well. A lot of business owners also sell because of burnout, but they don't think about selling, so they don't plan their exit. They treat their business as their baby versus the valuable asset that it is. And when they're facing one of these catastrophic events, they're like, oh no, I need to sell my business. And then they'll come to us and want an evaluation. And we'll ask them, well, what's your desired sales price? And they'll throw out a number like $10 million. Well,
wow.
their EBITDA, their cash flow is $100,000. And
I was just going to say, throwing that number out of your head, what an amazing skill to have if you're a business owner. That sounds crazy. So
and I always ask them, well, how did you come up with that number? And they're like, oh, well, that's what I need to retire on. Or that's what I need to travel the world. Or that's what I need to put 5 girls through college and pay for 5 girls' weddings. It's always based upon what they need and not what the value of their company actually is.
Mm. Amazing. I want you to get into that book. I'm not sure if you have a copy you can hold up there, but it's called Exit Rich. Just tell us why you wrote that book, and give it a plug. Why people should get it. What are they going to learn from it?
Sure. So, Exit Rich, so much to tell you. Number one, Steve Forbes endorsed Exit Rich, saying it's a gold mine for entrepreneurs as they leave way too much money on the table when they go to sell their business. And have you heard of Sharon Lechter?
Yes.
She's my co-author, and she wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad with Robert Kiyosaki. She's a five times New York Times bestselling author, plus a CPA, financial literacy expert, and the advisor to many different presidents. So she writes the Mentor's Corner after each chapter. And then Kevin Harrington, the original Shark on Shark Tank, wrote the foreword. Plus, we have glowing testimonials from Brad Sugar, from Action Coach, Les Brown, Brian Tracy, Tom Hopkins, some of the old great ones, Jack Canfield. And Exit Rich, people think that's just about selling your business. It's really not just about selling your business. It's about actually creating a sellable asset, because so many business owners have created a glorified job in which they go to work at versus a business that actually works for them. So Exit Rich is all about, like Stephen Covey says, start with the end in mind.
Yeah.
So it's all about planning your exit strategy from day one of buying or starting your business, or from day one that you read my book. And it walks you through the STGPS exit model, from the beginning to the end. It's a 5-step process. And then it's about mindset. Tom, you know as well as I do that everything is about mindset. So we really go into the seller sanity check, what's important to business owners, why are they thinking about selling, what's their beginning strategy. If we don't help them plan their beginning strategy, they'll never follow through with their exit strategy. And then we help them prioritize what's the most important thing in selling a business. It's not always the price. A lot of times it's taking care of their employees, or it's taking care of their clients, or it's growing their legacy. And then we get into the 5 types of buyers and their negotiables and non-negotiables, and how to build a business, your business, to meet their specific criteria so they'll pay top dollar for your business. We also go into how to build the infrastructure so that your business runs on all 6 cylinders, all 6 Ps. The 6 Ps are everything. And most businesses run on 2 to 3. Very seldom do I see a business that runs on all 6 cylinders. And then after the 6 Ps, and I'll tell you the 6 Ps real quick. Number one is people. You don't build a business, you build people, and people build a business. And, we really focus on entrepreneurs focusing on their strengths, working on their strengths, hiring out their weaknesses. The second P is product. One of the number one reasons that 70% of businesses are going out of business is because business owners stop doing what I call AIM. AIM is always innovate and market. So product is the second P, and the processes is the third P. A lot of business owners don't really have processes and systems in place. So we have a whole chapter dedicated to processes and how you should design your processes around the customer experience in mind. And then the fourth P is proprietary. And Tom, proprietary is your number one value driver. This can take you from a 3 to a 4 to a 6 to 10 multiple. So proprietary is your number one value driver and can increase your multiple of EBITDA. And then the fifth P is your patrons. This is your customer database, your customer base. You want to make sure that you don't have customer concentration, you have customer diversification. And then the last P is profits. And I put profits last because lack of profits is never the problem, Tom. It's a symptom of not running on one of the other 5 Ps. So we talk about the 6 Ps, there's a chapter to each P. And then the second half of the book is all about evaluations, all about packaging your business for sale, all about how to create a bidding war and get your business in front of the right buyers so that we can create a bidding war and get top dollar for your business. And it's all about negotiations, due diligence, closing. And then there's also a chapter in there about how to build your business, the road to sell, because most businesses are not ready to sell. And then it's all about the top 10 mistakes business owners make and the top 20 questions you should ask an advisor before hiring one.
Well, Michelle, I just want to say thanks, everybody. I'm just going to give it a plug again. We'll give a plug at the end where you can get it. But the book Exit Rich, and what I'm loving about the book so far, what you've heard there, and it's a teaching moment, is you've almost created a blueprint just with outlining the sections of that book. I want to just riff on this for a minute because you sent me on a journey in my mind here, Michelle, about so many experiences I've had with business. It's funny because when I went and jumped from being a corporate CEO to creating my own company, nobody prepares you for that jump. And I love how you put the first P is people. I always like to say, just so you know, my mindset, that culture trumps everything. When I was running a company and publicly, the culture, if you don't have the right people in the culture. But what's interesting is since I've become an entrepreneur in the last 10 years, Michelle, I went into some companies. I was hired to do some interim leadership work. And it's crazy in some of the entrepreneurial, I mean, there's family businesses where there's all sorts of toxic relationships and power struggles, and the father wants the son to be the successor. I went into another company and where the culture was so toxic, the employees didn't like the owner, and the owner had everything in their head. There's no written guidelines and policies. And a lot of people I don't think really understand about multiples and EBITDA and all those things. I want to say one thing and then give it back to you to talk about that. When I created my business, I actually had a friend in Holland, Michigan. He's a business leader, and he put me in a room for a day. And the first thing we did is mapped out my business plan. I loved what you said about Kiyosaki too, because Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I saw another piece that they did called the cash flow quadrant. And I did a little bit of time in network marketing. Don't want to say that too loudly because it wasn't a good experience. There is a business that has no ROI. It's all artificially inflated in many cases. But what I learned about studying the cash flow quadrant is what you said. It's such a beautiful teaching moment that if you look at two ways people get wealthy, one is investing and one is creating a business. And a business I learned is not like my dad was an electrician. And so he's always working. It's creating something that works when you sleep. When I created my company, my mentor said, we're gonna build it so you can step away from it in the first year. I was freaked out. I was like, what are you talking about? I wanted my name all over it and my brand. He says, no, we're going to build it so that you're not the focal point. And the last thing is that I heard you say was about process. Many companies, I have a friend who's a young 40 under 40, and he started off the coffee table in his home, Michelle, and the business exploded. He had no idea about processes. And so there's this thing about, I guess maybe there's a term you can use if you have one. They call it bringing in, when you bring in management or key people who have experience. A lot of business owners don't want to or are afraid of that, of losing control. So I want to give it back to you and just ask you, threw a lot of things out there, but I'm going to bring it to a little point here. In all your success selling thousands of businesses in each category, when you first meet a client, can you walk us through the process? So you meet me and I'm skeptical and I don't know anything. What happens next to build rapport and trust with me that I can give my livelihood and trust your evaluations and everything from start to finish? Help us understand your process.
Sure. So it really depends upon the client. A lot of times, we just had a client the other day that has been following me for 3 years. 3 years. I'm like, oh, you're stalking me.
I was just going to say, not a stalker.
So he's been listening. He actually emailed us and said, hey, I've been following you for 3 years and listening to my videos, reading my blogs, etc., reading my books. And he now wants to work with us. So it just really depends. I mean, a lot of times if clients have heard of me, I've heard of Seiler Tucker, then they already almost feels like they know us and almost feels like they trust us. Of course, they have questions and we put their mind at ease and, always obviously look for rapport. But for us, it's very important to make sure that we can help them, that we can provide value. If that's partnering with a business owner, because we do partner with business owners and I invest my money, expertise, resources, or if we're merging a business, selling a business, we want to make sure that we can add that value and make sure that we're a good fit and make sure that we can sell that business if we're looking at a business to sell. I mean, number one, we don't charge retainer fees. So unlike most advisors in that room of 3,000 men, they pretty much all charge retainer fees. And I actually was so funny, full circle, but I actually have spoken on the M&A panel numerous times, in front of those men. And I'm an approved speaker now for the M&A panel. But we don't charge retainer fees. So we want to make sure it's a good fit for us. We want to make sure that the client is coachable, because there's a lot of things if we're partnering that we're going to suggest that they do. There's a lot of things that if we are selling a business, we're going to suggest that they do. So if they don't know us, if they haven't heard of us, then of course, it's, it's their dance, meaning that, yes, I lead, but I want to hear what they have to say. I want to hear all about them. I want to hear about the entrepreneur journey. And then, we find some common ground, and then we let them know all about us. And then the process is, we got to start with, why do you want to sell your business? What is your why? What are you going to do next? What are you hoping to get out of your business? What do you really need? Because there's a big difference between what you think you need and what you actually need. And then we got to get into the evaluation and see how wide is the gap. If you want 10 million and you're worth $1 million, there's a pretty big gap there. So instead of just putting your business up for sale and nobody buys it, we'll probably put you in our Road to Sell program and start getting you ready to sell for that $10 million versus selling it right now.
Yeah, I want to jump in there. You just gave me what I was looking for. I think that's awesome, the Road to Sell program. You actually read my mind, Michelle. I was thinking, if I have my business, and one of the things I learned from somebody else that I know who does what you do, probably much differently, by the way, is that many of the brokers in that firm, many of the deals were lost after a long process at the due diligence stage. And so I have a business. I don't know if it's ready for sale. I'm sure there's a lot of gaps in it. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. So what you're saying is you have a program where you could say, Tom, let's get to know each other, build some rapport, get some trust. And I have a vision of what I want. If I'm not ready, you'll help me get there. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
That's amazing.
I mean, there are some businesses that need to sell right now for some of those catastrophic reasons we talked about. And if somebody's diagnosed with cancer, and I know it sounds terrible, but it happens, obviously, then they might not have the time to go on the Road to Sell. So we need to get their business sold now for maximum value. But we really encourage business owners to start planning 2 to 3, 4 years out, and really map out your business based upon the STGPS exit model that we really haven't gotten into yet. But that's so important to get business owners on that plan, because business owners don't fail to plan to fail. They fail to plan. Yeah. Most business owners haven't even determined a destination. And that's why they drive around. Think about it. When you want to drive somewhere, you pull out your Google Maps. First thing you plug in is your destination. If you don't plug in a destination, what happens?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. It's interesting because when I first shifted from being an employed business leader to own my own company, you wear all the hats. Yeah. And there was a safety net in corporate America for me as a top leader. I mean, I always had a paycheck, but what I learned the first month being self-employed is sometimes you have to just drop everything to keep the lights on. Payroll's coming up. I want to ask you about continuity and in businesses. How can you put a number on it? What's the percentage of businesses that sell where the current management teams stay on? Is there a transition period, and is that correlated to the sustainability of the business?
Yeah, but there's 100% actually, to give you a percentage.
Oh, wow.
100% of the owners have to stay on for some period of time. Yeah. In smaller businesses, it's typically they stay on for 1 to 2 months or 1 to 3 months to ensure a smooth transition. In the larger businesses, they typically stay on with either their salary plus benefits, or they stay on with equity. And a lot of the larger businesses, buyers don't want to buy 100%. They prefer to buy 70, 80, 90%. They want the owner to retain equity because they feel that that business is still dependent upon the owner. I mean, we're selling a company right now in a $60 to $70 million range, and they have 300 employees, 350 employees. But the owner is still critical in that business. The owner has the relationships with the customers. The owner has, you mentioned the word earlier, the owner has a lot of the data still in their head. Even though they have processes and procedures, a lot of that data and the IP is still in the owner's head. I wish I could just take a chip and plug it up to owners' brains and download all the data.
Yeah, it's interesting because there was a time I see a lot of people trying to build apps, like online apps, and selling these online process manuals and things. I'm going like, look, we're in a day and age, Michelle, where, I mean, as an example, I'm an author too, so I honor the fact that you're an author. I published a book, and when I wrote my book, I literally took a tape recorder or my mic, and I talked in it for an hour 6 times, and then I sent it to a transcriptor. So to all of those out there, I'm just suggesting that, don't spend a lot of money. Just, okay, if you know what the sales process is for your company, get your salesperson to record it and put it away in a file, send it. So there's so many ways we can prepare better for that. One of the things that came to mind was you were speaking was about risk. How does one look for, I don't know what I'll call it, the skeletons in the closet? For example, I have somebody I know who bought a business, and they failed to do a search on it, and there was $100,000 debt. They put $100,000 into the business or so, but there was a lien, and they lost their entire investment. Or sometimes owners will cook the books, and so I assume you have very sophisticated, because I think you're a senior business analyst too, some sophistication behind this, right?
I absolutely. And there's a big difference between a business broker and a mergers and acquisitions advisor. Business brokers sell coffee shops, pizzerias, things of that nature. They don't really do their due diligence. And your friend that, lost $100,000 because there's a lien. Well, that's a big no-no. Somebody didn't do their job. And it's really not the advisor's job to find out if there's a lien. It's the attorney's job to research all of the assets that are being sold to make sure that those assets are being sold, lien-free. Was this a small business that he sold?
Yeah.
That he bought?
Yeah, he was an unsophisticated first-time business buyer. Didn't
Did
use
he have
any
a broker?
advisors. No.
Okay. So he had no broker. Did he have an attorney?
No, like I said,
Well, there you
and
go.
this is so this is so common. I hear these stories because of the work I do, that people just don't know, and I think
You
this
don't
is
know
why
what
your
you don't
book.
know. Yeah.
I think this is why I'm recommending people get your book. They also look at your blogs and the things you talked about, because it's knowledge on demand. You need to find a Michelle, and you need to take a look at and learn before jumping into the deep end. I want to just ask you one more question as we move to wrapping up. You're so amazing to share so much with us. We've learned a lot. We could probably do a 2.0 and learn more. Want to ask you about COVID. This is a big deal. I mean, it hit the world. Valuations are probably impacted. This is about mindset. What do you say to a business owner who's got a broken heart, just feels like giving up because they feel their business has died, and maybe they're in the process of, before COVID, of thinking about retiring or thinking about a 5-year window? How can I see all these? Let me just put something on the screen here for a moment. I see all these people saying things like, she's inspirational. There's another one. So inspire us for a moment with anything. Just inspire us. I'm struggling, and I don't know if I want to continue. But this is my dream. It's my baby, and COVID's going away, but I don't know if I can do this.
Well, first of all, I like to shift your mindset to, this is not my baby. Your babies are at home. Your babies are at home. Go home, love them, kiss them, hug them. It's like your financial advisor, your portfolio, your stocks and bonds that you invest in. You're not saying, this is my baby. You're telling your advisor, sell, buy, do whatever you need to do to make my investment grow and grow big. Same thing with your business. Your business is your most valuable asset. It's your investment. It's not your baby. We have to start shifting the mindset, because if you treat it like your baby, then you're always going to have a baby and it will never grow up. into the valuable asset that it is. So if you are on the verge, I mean, the pandemic was, people might get mad at me for saying this, but the pandemic was a blessing for a lot of businesses. A lot of industries saw their best year ever and are now wanting to sell because of that. And then there are so many industries that saw their last year ever and just want to give up. So, I always say it's hard to give advice unless you know where somebody's head is.
Yeah.
What catastrophes that they're facing. They might be facing bankruptcy. It's hard to know. But I always say before you give up, find an expert. Find an advisor, find a mentor, somebody who's been down the road you want to travel, somebody who's made the mistakes, and see if they can pull you up out of this. Because a lot of times, if you want different answers, you need to ask different questions. And if you want a different perspective, you need to get an outsider's viewpoint. I always say it's hard to read the label from the inside of the bottle. You need an outsider's perspective to read the warning signs and keep you out of the danger zone. So nothing, failure is not final. Quitting is.
I love it. I can see why people call you inspirational. And I just want to use this as a teaching moment, everybody on the show, that if you just joined us, I was saying to Michelle, COVID-19 hit and I'm a business owner and I'm discouraged. I think the biggest learning you gave us was the word perspective. And, Napoleon wrote the book, Think and Grow Rich. It's well read. And he talks about no one succeeds without the power of a mastermind, which my definition is two or more people working in harmony towards, common purpose. And so, wow, what better advice, everybody, if you're running a business, is to find a mastermind partner, find an advisor, call somebody like Michelle, even if you're not looking at selling, and get your mindset back where it should be. I love the perspective that you gave us, Michelle, because I didn't think of it that way, but you're right. I've, so many opportunities are going to open up for people to open businesses. There's going to be opportunities, like you said. I know a friend who owns a restaurant, and then they had to pivot to doing takeout and some other ways. They said, they just told me yesterday that they had the best few months ever in the history of the business, and that new business model, the way they pivoted, they're going to now build that out. So I like how you think, painting a positive picture. Tell us anything before we wrap up, anything you want to leave us with. Tell us about your book, where we can get a hold of you. And when you're done with this world, what would you like it to look like when Michelle's finished her amazing work?
So a few things. First and foremost, if you go to hire a mentor or partner with a mentor, get into a mastermind, do your research, do your due diligence. There's so many people out there that say that they've done this and this and this. Just investigate, do your due diligence to make sure that's true. You want to get somebody who's extremely successful, who's been down the path you want to travel. That's number one. Number two, what do I want this world to look like? Well, small business, in my opinion. Now, I know you're in Canada, Tom, but I'm in the United States. But I would say this is probably true for Canada, too. Small business is the backbone of our economy. There's over 30.2 million businesses in the United States. And unfortunately, out of 26.7 million businesses, 70% of them are going out of business that have been in 10 years. That's really, really scary. And the reason that's so scary is because if we lose small business in America employs over half the U.S. workforce. If we lose small business, then we lose more jobs. We lose more jobs, and we lose spending power. When you lose spending power, what happens? More small businesses shut down. So, it's my mission. It's my passion. I love entrepreneurship. I live, eat, breathe entrepreneurship. Everybody always asks me, what's your hobbies? This is my hobby. So, I love to save America's economy by saving one business at a time from going out of business. And I really want to improve the statistics that more than 20% of businesses actually sell. And so more business owners can exit rich and really, start to enjoy the fruits of their labor. And as far as my book goes, Exit Rich. So Exit Rich launches tomorrow, June 22nd. It's been a long road for Sharon.
Perfect timing.
Perfect time. It's been a long road for Sharon Lecter and I, because we came out with Exit Rich in 2020, but because of the pandemic, we're going to speak on so many stages. We had to pivot too. So it's been a long road to this day. We're so excited. You can still go and get Exit Rich either today or tomorrow at exitrichbook.com and still get all the bonuses. That's exitrichbook.com. If you go there today, let's say you go order the book today, we will send you, first and foremost, we'll email you the digital download. Then to anyone that lives inside the United States, sorry, Canada, we will ship you the hardcover for no additional cost. Anyone outside the United States, obviously it's additional shipping cost. And then we will give you a lifetime membership into Exit Rich Book Club. At Exit Rich Book Club, there's video content and me doing deep dives into these different strategies and techniques that we're talking about here today, plus documents to run your business, documents to sell your business. So we have sample employee handbooks. We have sample non-competes, policy and procedure manuals, org charts, sample letter of intents. So many business owners have never seen a letter of intent. We have letter of intents. We have sample business evaluations, sample purchase agreements, due diligence checklists, closing docs. All of these documents would cost you over $50,000 if you went to your attorney to recreate. I know, because I spent that kind of money, and sometimes I think attorneys charge by the word. So anyway, it's all there for your review and your download. Plus, anyone who buys today or tomorrow, we're giving you a free 30-day membership into Club CEOs, which is an entrepreneurship mastermind where we really ask those transformational questions, help business owners pivot, give you that outsider's perspective that you need so you can build that sustainable, scalable, and when you're ready, sellable business. And that's all at exitrichbook.com. And that's for $24.79. I mean, that's like less than lunch. It's so much value.
Yeah, I could say to myself and smile and say, "Are you reading from a cue card? You have that so well memorized." And I have to say that it's rare when a book is done that it has a model behind it that much value. So everybody, you're not just getting a book, you're getting value. And I was going to say, don't worry about saying sorry, Canada. Although I have to say that people accuse Canadians of saying sorry too much, but we don't say sorry because we have to. We say because it's the right thing to do. If you're in Canada or anywhere that doesn't have free shipping, hey, we're in business and it's a small investment in your business. So get the book. I want to just put up a little comment here. One of our listeners interacting with us. People are the key. You reminded us of something that applies in Canada. The small business market in Canada powers our economy. In fact, I would suggest that small business with less than 10%, or the big business less than 10%, power the world. This is about people, about entrepreneurs starting off the side of their desks with an idea and growing into success. So you're doing an amazing thing with your tribe. I want to honor you as we wrap up here with a couple things. I don't think they told you this, so I hope it's a surprise. The one thing I do is
They don't tell me anything.
Oh, good. Well, that's probably better for someone like you, because surprises are light you up. I want to honor you with 4 leadership words. These are not scripted. I write them as you're speaking. The first one is Maven. If anybody's read the book Outliers, there's connectors and there's mavens. The combination of those 2 words is somebody who's a powerful person in business. Maven is somebody who you say, hey, when I want to know something about this, I got to go to that person. Well, Michelle is a maven. Number 2 is love. I'm sure, that's an odd word to say, but love comes through you. It's energy, it's positivity. And from somebody who had an experience growing up and going into a man's world, I think you love the world by being who you are, authentic. Number 3 is authority. Being an author, writing in a book, but you are an authority in the area of M&A. There's no question about it from what I've seen. And the last one is I'm just going to say hope. You've given us hope today, especially in a difficult time when a lot of business owners have struggled because of the post and pre-pandemic. Now I'm going to honor you with an award. This is probably the other thing they didn't tell you. So I'm going to put the spotlight on me for a minute. You see in the background there, it's called a challenge coin. It looks like a guy I know. Now, these were minted and crafted in the United States. They're 2-sided. The front is the art of the show, my show. This back is actually the hero's journey narrative, which applies to all stories told on my show. This is something that I had as a vision. When I started my show a few years ago, I wanted to bring people who would tell their stories of adversity that they overcome to success, so we could learn from it. People are doing purposeful work to help the planet, to help others. And so today we induct you with this award into the Quiet Warrior Tribe. Now, these coins, Michelle, were started in World War I. They were carried by soldiers in their pockets to commit to each other, to commit community. And if you showed up and you didn't have yours, maybe you'd buy me a drink and we'd have some fun. Today, challenge coins are used all over the world for community. So I want you to know that less than 50 people a year will get one of these. They're now in 14 countries. And by carrying it, you commit to continuing your journey to help the world like you do. And you will be connected to all the quiet warriors. And by the way, Kevin Harrington received his on my 100th episode. So somebody you mentioned early, we're all now connected as quiet warriors. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. That's an honor. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So we'll arrange to get that out to you in the near future. But on that note, just final word goes to you.
I was just going to throw out another bonus for all your listeners. Anybody, and I normally don't do this, but anybody who goes and gets Exit Rich, because we're leading up to the launch day, which is tomorrow. So let's say anyone who buys 10 copies of Exit Rich gets an hour free consultation with me, not anyone on my team, but with me. And anybody who buys 20 copies gets 2 hours. And anybody who buys 30 copies gets the 2 hours plus an evaluation.
Well, thank you. That's amazing. A bonus offer. Everybody go back and listen to this last part of the show to note that. And we'll put it in the show notes. We'll collaborate with you and your team to do that. So everybody can find this show, The Quiet Warrior Show, on your favorite podcast channel. It'll be released in the near future. And also click the button, Tom Dutta's YouTube channel, so we can see the video premiere of this incredible show. And live your life with passion, live life with purpose, like you hear from Michelle Seiler Tucker. Live the life that you deserve and desire. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for all the work that you're doing to inspire everyone. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You deserve.
Thank you.
You deserve an award.
Thank you.
Thank you.